I don't know what you're talking about. That's my yard now. That's what my neighbor said, with a straight face. Like he hadn't just moved his fence 6 feet into my property while I was out of town for 2 weeks. I stood there, blinking at the fence that now cut across my lawn like it had always belonged there. Like I was the crazy one. I measured it 3 times. Checked the old survey. Pulled up Google Earth. There was no mistake. He took my land. Stole it. Quietly. While I was gone. And he didn't just stop at the fence. No. He built part of his new garage on it too. Bold as hell. Like I was too stupid to notice. Too polite to do anything. He smiled when I confronted him. Smiled. You're not gonna make a big deal out of a few feet, right? No. I wasn't. I made a huge deal. But not right away. I waited. Plotted. And when I was ready, I brought in the professionals. Surveyors. Lawyers. The whole damn crew. He thought he was clever. He thought I'd just move on. He had no idea what was coming. It didn't start with the fence. I wish it had. That would have been easier. Clear cut. But no. Greg had been a problem since the day he moved in. Big smile. Bigger truck. Loud music blasting from his garage while he worked on stuff. He always had some project going. A deck. A fire pit. A smoker. A lifted ATV he never took off the trailer. At first, I tried to be nice. Hey man, I said one morning, holding a cup of coffee. Mind turning it down a bit? My kid's still asleep. He nodded. Smiled. Then cranked it louder 5 minutes after I walked back inside. That's who he was. One of those guys who says all the right things while doing whatever the hell he wants. I let it slide. One time. Then another. Then 10 more. Then he started parking in front of my mailbox. Every day. Even though he had a double driveway. I asked him not to. He shrugged. Said, didn't realize you owned the curb. Eventually, the mail carrier stopped delivering my mail. I had to go pick it up at the post office. For weeks. Greg didn't care. Then came the security camera. One day, it was just there. Mounted on the corner of his house. Pointed directly at my backyard. I walked over. Hey, I said. That camera's pointed straight into my yard. He squinted up at it like he hadn't noticed. Yeah. Gotta protect the property line. You never know these days. I knew what he was doing. I'd caught him before, standing in his window, watching me mow. Just standing there. Like he was taking mental notes. Then I got the first complaint. A letter from the city. Someone reported illegal burning in my fire pit. Funny, since I hadn't used it in over a month. The next week? A complaint about an unpermitted structure. It was my kid's treehouse. Built with help from my dad. The inspector came out. I had to tear it down. Greg watched from his driveway, arms crossed, nodding like he was proud. That's when I stopped waving. Stopped talking. He started revving his truck at night. Right when we were putting our daughter to sleep. Sometimes he'd do donuts in his yard, tires tearing up the grass, engine howling like a damn jet. Then he added motion lights. Industrial bright. Every time our dog walked outside, they'd flood our yard like a prison yard. He knew what he was doing. And then I left town. A work trip. Just 9 days. I came back to find the fence. He'd pushed it 6 feet into my yard. 6 feet. I stared at it for 10 solid minutes. Thought maybe I was seeing it wrong. Thought maybe I was going insane. I wasn't. He'd even laid new sod to match mine. Made it look natural. Like it had always been there. And just like that, part of my yard gone. I walked over. Knocked on his door. He opened it, holding a beer. Hey neighbor, he said, grinning like we were best friends. You moved the fence. He glanced out. Huh. Yeah. Had to fix it. Old one was falling over. I think this line's actually more accurate anyway. No. It's not. He shrugged. Well, that's how it is now. I should have lost it. I wanted to. But I didn't. Because in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't a guy who acted without thinking. This was a guy who counted on people not doing anything. He picked targets who'd stay polite, quiet, reasonable. I didn't say another word. Just turned and walked home. That night, I dug out the paperwork. Old survey from when I bought the house. Markers still in the ground. I found the pins. Measured the space. Triple-checked everything. He hadn't just stolen 6 feet of grass. He'd built part of his garage on my property too. Concrete. Framing. Electricity. His whole back wall, mine. And it got worse. When I walked the line again, I realized something else. His gutters were draining onto my side. Flooding my flower beds. Probably why the soil was shifting near the patio. I took pictures. I called a surveyor. Booked them for the following week. Quietly. Didn't say a word to Greg. But he must have sensed something. Because that's when things really went sideways. 2 days later, I came home to find a trash bag dumped across my driveway. Ripped open. Banana peels. Fast food. Coffee grounds. Like someone had shaken out a dumpster. Greg was in his garage. Didn't say a word. The next morning? Dog poop. Not from my dog. Right in front of my porch steps. The next week my fence, had deep gashes in it. Like someone had slammed a metal rake across the boards. My daughter asked why the flowers were dying. Because Greg's gutter water was drowning them. Because Greg didn't care. Because Greg thought he could get away with everything. I said nothing. I smiled when I saw him. I waved once, just to be petty. Inside, I was boiling. Waiting. When the surveyors finally arrived, he came storming out. "What's this?" "Just checking the line," I said. "Making sure everything's in order." He laughed. "It's a fence, man. You're really gonna make a thing out of this?" I didn't answer. He watched the whole time. Circling. Pacing. Pretending not to care. But I could see it. He knew. He knew the second they stuck that flag into the ground. 3 feet past his fence. Into his garage wall. His face turned pale. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. But nothing came out. He just stood there. Staring at the line. The flag fluttered in the wind. The silence said everything. And suddenly it wasn't just about the fence anymore. It was about everything he'd done. Every complaint. Every light. Every insult. Every passive-aggressive move. He'd picked the wrong neighbor. Greg didn't take it well. After the surveyor marked the property line, something in him shifted. He didn't come over. Didn't knock. He retaliated in silence. 2 nights later, my tires got slashed. All 4. Clean cuts. Like someone used a box cutter. Cops came. Wrote a report. Shrugged when I said I had a suspicion. No witnesses. No cameras. Just bad luck, they said. Greg stood across the street in his robe, sipping coffee. Didn't wave that time. The next morning, I found nails scattered across my driveway. Just a few. Enough to notice. Enough to wonder. Was I losing my mind? My wife didn't think so. But she was scared. "He's unstable," she said. "What if he goes further?" We started locking everything. Fence gates. Shed. Back door, even when we were home. We took down our daughter's swing set. It was too close to the new fence. Too close to him. She cried. "I don't want Greg to take this too." That was the first time she said his name like it was a monster. And I hated that. I hated him. I hated the way he made me feel in my own house. Like I was trespassing on what used to be mine. But Greg wasn't finished. The next week, we got another city complaint. Illegal structure visible from the street. This time? Our mailbox. Our mailbox. The inspector showed up again. She looked embarrassed. I asked if it was Greg. She didn't say it was. But she didn't not say it either. Then there were the noises. Middle of the night. Thumps on our side of the fence. Something hitting the boards. We'd look outside. Nothing. Next night again. And again. Then scratching. I installed a camera. Cheap one. Hidden in the bush by the corner post. What I caught? Greg. 2 in the morning. Throwing things over the fence. Bits of trash. A rock. Once, a rotten tomato. I downloaded the footage. Saved it to a USB. Labeled it. Greg 2 a.m. attacks. In all caps. Because at this point, I was done pretending we were neighbors. We were at war. And then he did the worst thing. He called CPS. Said he was concerned about the child next door. Said he heard screaming at night. Said it sounded like abuse. A stranger showed up at our door. Clipboard. ID badge. She asked to see our daughter's room, her bathroom, her clothes. She asked about school, bedtimes, diet. My wife cried after she left. I didn't. I just sat at the table, staring at the wall, not blinking. I knew it was him, and there was nothing I could do about it, except wait and build. Because I wasn't stupid. And I wasn't weak. I'd already called a lawyer. Already pulled the surveyor report. Had photos. Measurements. City permit violations. His garage wall was 31 inches into my yard. His gutter runoff violated code. His fence wasn't just crooked, it was illegal. And now I had harassment. False complaints. Vandalism. I was building a case, one brick at a time. Greg kept digging his own grave. And I kept my mouth shut. Except at night. When I'd go outside. Stand in my own yard. And whisper to the air. Soon. But it wasn't easy. I stopped sleeping. I started snapping at my wife over nothing. Started canceling plans with friends. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to explain. Because explaining meant reliving it. And reliving it meant rage. And rage meant I might lose control. And Greg wanted that. He wanted me to blow up. He wanted a reason to paint himself as the victim. So I waited. Every night, I'd look at the USB drive. Every day, I'd scan the yard, the driveway, the mailbox. The stress was eating me alive. My daughter started drawing pictures of our house with a big red X over the fence. Greg waved to her once. She ran inside crying. We stopped letting her play outside altogether. And still, he smiled. Still, he watered my grass. Still, he walked around like the king of this little piece of stolen earth. Then the last straw landed. An envelope. No stamp. No return address. Just sitting on our front step. Inside? A printed sheet of paper. One sentence, bold font. If you push this, I'll ruin you. That was it. No name. No proof. But I knew. Greg had gone from petty to threatening. From smug to dangerous. And something inside me just snapped. Not fear. Not rage. Something colder. I stared out at the fence. At the line I knew was mine. And I said it out loud. Enough is enough. It's time for revenge. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. I sat at the kitchen table with the lights off, staring out the window. Watching the fence. Waiting for Greg to pull another stunt. Nothing happened. Not yet. But I knew what that note meant. I knew the kind of person he was. And I knew if I let it go one more time, it was never going to stop. So I started planning. Not like in the movies. Not with a chalkboard or a secret lair or some dramatic music. More like a guy with Google, a notepad, and a whole lot of rage bottled up behind his teeth. At first, I wanted to go big. Something fast. Something explosive. First idea? Hire a backhoe. Knock down the fence and the side of his garage in the middle of the night. Make it look like an accident. Blame it on bad soil or slope erosion. Yeah. That one didn't even make it past the first cup of coffee. Second idea? Call the city and report everything. The fence. The garage. The runoff. The harassment. Bury him in red tape. But I'd already tried pieces of that. The city moved slow. Greg didn't care about warnings. He'd just lie, deflect, stall. It wasn't enough. Third idea? Get him arrested. For what, though? He was sneaky. No direct evidence for the vandalism. Nothing that would stick. The CPS call? Untraceable. I even thought about paying someone to mess with his house. Yeah. I sat with that one a while. Then threw it out. Because here's the thing. I didn't want revenge that made me look like him. I wanted something clean. Legal. Precise. I wanted him to know he lost. Publicly. Officially. In writing. In court. So I started digging. First stop? The county records office. I requested every document tied to my property and his. Plat maps. Lot surveys. Construction permits. Zoning exceptions. A week later, I had a fat envelope in my hands. I spread everything out on my dining table. Compared the old survey with the new one I just paid for. And there it was. Clear as day. 31 inches of his garage wall built across my legal boundary. No easement. No shared use agreement. No permit for construction that closed to the line. Nothing. I called my lawyer. Her name was Stephanie. Mid-40s. No nonsense. Sounded like she ate HOA presidents for breakfast. I laid it all out for her. She looked over the documents and nodded slowly. This is going to be fun, she said. Over the next few weeks, we built the case. I handed over every document. The surveyor report. Time-stamped photos. Even screenshots from Google Earth showing the before and after of the fence placement. And yes, I gave her the USB stick labeled Greg 2 a.m. attacks. She watched it. Didn't laugh once. Then she said, "We're not just going after the fence. We're going after the garage." That's when I knew I'd found the right person. But revenge takes patience. And paperwork. And precision. And while we were building our case, Greg was busy digging his own grave. He kept doing little things. More noise. More trash. More accidental. Lights flooding our windows at night. I didn't react. Not once. I nodded when I saw him. Smiled. Waved occasionally, just to twist the knife. Meanwhile, I was doing homework. I learned about adverse possession laws. Turns out Greg would have needed to keep that fence up for over 10 years to make a claim on that 6 feet. He didn't even last 6 months. I learned about encroachment. About property line violations. About court-mandated removal of illegal structures. And most importantly, I learned that a judge can order compensation for loss of use, plus damages. Stephanie filed the suit. Civil court. We weren't asking him to just remove the garage wall. We were asking for financial damages, legal ownership of the portion he built on, compensation for drainage issues, harassment, and legal fees. She served the papers herself. Hand-delivered to Greg's smug little face while he was watering my grass. She told me later he went white as a ghost. Didn't say a word. Just closed the door and locked it behind him. Then he lawyered up. And tried to stall. His attorney filed for extensions. Claimed it was a boundary misunderstanding. Said we were neighbors with a history of conflict. The court wasn't buying it. The survey spoke for itself. So did the drone footage Stephanie got from a local real estate contact. Footage showing the garage clearly jutting over the property line. And then, there was the cherry on top. Stephanie found out Greg never got the proper permit for that garage at all. It wasn't just encroaching. It was illegal construction. Code violation. Permit violation. Zoning violation. Boom. Now it wasn't just a civil issue. It was a city problem. The city opened a case. Sent their own inspector. He came out, looked at the site, and wrote up a scathing report. The best part? He measured the slope of the gutter runoff and added, "Negligent water damage to neighboring property," to the list. Greg tried to talk to me after that. Cornered me in my driveway like nothing had happened. "This is crazy, man," he said. "You're taking this too far." I just looked at him. "No," I said. "You did." He huffed. Stormed off. That was the last time we spoke. The city ordered him to cease all use of the garage until the case was settled. Meanwhile, my daughter went back to playing outside. My wife started sleeping again. But I wasn't done. I started documenting everything. Every noise. Every motion light. Every time he stared at us from across the fence. I even joined the neighborhood Facebook group under a fake name. Started asking people if they'd had issues with Greg. Oh boy. They had stories. Turns out, I wasn't the first. Just the first to take him to court. Stephanie added witness statements to the file. Harassment claims. Pattern of behavior. She even had one neighbor testify that Greg bragged about stealing yard space from a past neighbor years ago. This wasn't new behavior. This was his thing. And it was about to blow up in his face. Court date was set. 2 months from now. Stephanie said we had a near-perfect case. I don't want near-perfect, I said. I want bulletproof. So we double-checked everything. We ran title checks. Permit records. Local ordinances. State laws. We had everything in writing. Every measurement. Every violation. Every city response. Every photo. Every inch of grass he tried to steal. And then I asked her, if we win, what happens to the garage? She smiled. Well, technically it becomes yours. I blinked. Wait. My garage? Unless he pays you for it. Or tears it down. I laughed. Like ugly laughed. She smiled again. He'll regret that fence. And that's when I knew it was time. Time to end it. Time to finish what Greg started. He took 6 feet of grass. I was about to take a piece of his house. And $85,000. Court day. And I'll be honest, my hands were sweating. Even with all the paperwork. All the photos. All the measurements and witness statements and glowing, angry reports from the city. I still had that pit in my stomach. Because no matter how solid your case is, there's always that voice whispering, what if he gets away with it? I looked over at Greg across the courtroom. Tan blazer. Blue button-up. Hair slicked back like he was auditioning for a real estate billboard. He didn't look nervous. Not yet. But I could see the cracks. The twitch in his cheek. The tapping foot. The tight jaw every time his lawyer leaned over to whisper something. He thought he'd scare us into dropping it. He thought we'd back down once lawyers got involved. He thought wrong. Stephanie opened strong. She laid it all out for the judge in that tone lawyers use when they know they're not just right, they're provably right. She showed the original property survey. The new one, taken after the fence move. Then the city inspection report. Then the photos. The best part? The drone footage. Big flat screen monitor wheeled in, pausing right on the frame where you could clearly see Greg's garage overlapping the legal property line. Stephanie tapped the screen. That red flag in the ground, Your Honor, was placed by a licensed surveyor hired by my client. This wall, she pointed, is 31 inches past the legal boundary. Judge didn't even blink. Greg's lawyer shuffled some papers and started mumbling about boundary confusion and established usage. Then Greg took the stand. Oh boy. He tried to play it cool. Claimed it was a misunderstanding. Said the old fence line had always looked like the property line. The judge asked him if he had a permit for the garage. No, Your Honor, but I didn't think I needed one. Wrong answer. He kept digging. Said I was overreacting. That I had a personal vendetta. Then Stephanie played the late-night camera footage. There was Greg. 2:07 a.m. Tossing a fast food wrapper over the fence like a petty raccoon with a grudge. His face went red. The courtroom got quiet. You could hear the squeak of his lawyer's pen as she tried not to react. Then came the CPS report. I almost didn't want to include it. Almost. But my wife insisted. This is who he is, she said. Don't let him hide behind that fence. So we submitted it. Didn't accuse him directly, just included the timeline. The note on the doorstep. The coincidence of the complaint. The judge didn't say much. Just nodded. Took notes. By the end of it, Greg looked like a guy slowly realizing the ground beneath him wasn't solid anymore. And then the judge said, I'm going to review all submitted materials and issue a ruling within 14 days. Boom. That was it. No fireworks. No gavel slam. Just wait. So we waited. And Greg? Greg started to unravel. First, he tried to be friendly again. Hey, man. I know it's gotten out of hand, he said one morning as I was taking out the trash. Maybe we can find a compromise. I didn't stop walking. Didn't say a word. Then he stopped making eye contact altogether. Stopped coming outside as much. No more late night lights. No more music from the garage. No more trash bags mysteriously exploding in our yard. It was like watching a raccoon realize someone had locked the trash can shut. But then, day 9. He snapped. I came home from work. Pulled into the driveway. And there he was. Waiting. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. You really think they're gonna just give you part of my garage? He said. I didn't answer. You want the damn 6 feet of grass, fine. Take it. But you're not touching the garage. Still didn't answer. He stepped closer. You think you're some kind of hero in this? You're not. You're just a bitter little. I held up my phone and hit record. He froze. Took a step back. And walked away. I sent the video to Stephanie. She texted back one word. Useful. That night, I checked the court's online docket like I had every night since the hearing. And there it was. Ruling posted. Heart pounding. I clicked it. Read the summary once. Then again. Then a third time. And I laughed. I actually laughed out loud like a maniac in my dark kitchen. Because the judge didn't just rule in our favor. He gave us everything. Full legal ownership of the 31-inch encroachment zone. Mandatory removal of the illegal fence. $85,000 in damages and legal fees. An order for Greg to either remove the garage wall or surrender that part of the structure to us within 45 days. He had to hand over part of his house. And pay us for the pleasure. I went outside. Stood in the yard. Looked over the fence, still standing. Still crooked. Still smug. Not for long. Greg's lights were on. I knew he'd seen it too. Knew he was reading the same document I just read. I stood there until the porch light flicked off. Yeah. That's what I thought. But we weren't done. Because revenge isn't just about winning in court. It's about making sure he feels it. Every day. And I had one last move. The one that would twist the knife. 45 days. That's what the court gave Greg. 45 days to either pay us or start cutting into his beloved garage. No middle ground. No appeal. No special favors. Just tick-tock. And oh man, I watched that clock. Every single day. Greg disappeared for a while. We didn't see him much. Just the occasional slamming door or muffled phone call through his kitchen window. I knew that sound. Desperation. He tried to sell the garage idea. Seriously. He sent his lawyer back to us with a counteroffer. He'd rent the 3 feet of my land from me. $100 a year. Stephanie almost laughed out loud in the meeting. I didn't. I just said, no. Next came the contractor crew. They showed up one Saturday, walked around his property with clipboards, pointed at the garage wall, then shook their heads and left. Not a good sign for Greg. And now, let me explain how revenge tastes even better when it's cold, petty, and public. Because here's what I did next. I hired a surveyor. Again. But not to double-check anything. Nope. I wanted big, bright boundary stakes driven into the ground. 4 of them. Bright orange flags. 2 on each side of the garage wall. 1 on my side of the fence. 1 literally inside his garage wall. And I invited the neighborhood Facebook group to watch. I posted in the group, under my real name this time. Hey neighbors! Surveyors will be confirming the boundary line this Saturday at 10 a.m. Stop by if you've ever wondered where Greg's property ends and mine begins. People came. Lawn chairs. Dogs. Coffee mugs. It was an event. Even Marlene from 3 doors down brought cookies. Like it was a bake sale. And right on schedule, The surveyor hammered that orange flag into Greg's siding. Thunk. Dead center. The crowd applauded. Someone actually said, "Oh, that's gonna leave a mark." Greg was nowhere in sight. Curtains closed. But you know he was watching. The next day, he put his house up for sale. Listed it. As is. No price drop. No mention of the lawsuit in the description. But that didn't matter. Because I made sure word got around. It started with one email. I sent the public court ruling to a local real estate gossip blog. They ran it. Title: Homeowner builds on neighbor's property, loses garage and $85,000 in lawsuit. The article blew up. Reddit picked it up. So did a TikTok lawyer with 1.2 million followers. Someone turned it into a dramatic reading with background music. My wife found a meme about it on Pinterest. Greg tried to delist the house. Too late. The internet had spoken. But I wasn't done. Because remember how the judge said I owned the strip of land under the garage now? That gave me rights. So I got a permit to renovate my newly acquired structure. What did I do? I painted my section of his garage a completely different color. The garage was beige. I painted the 31-inch strip bright highlighter yellow. Like caution tape. I added a tiny sign. Private property, do not trespass. It looked absolutely ridiculous. And completely legal. Greg lost it. He came out, pacing, yelling, threatening to call the cops. Do it, I said. I'd love to explain it to them. He didn't. Instead, he put up a tarp over the yellow strip. City said he couldn't. I reported it. Down it came. Day 43, a moving truck pulled up. He didn't say goodbye. Didn't even look at us. Just packed. Loaded. Left. The house sat empty for months. Nobody wanted it. Every potential buyer Googled the address and found me, smiling like a smug landlord with a garage slice. Eventually, it sold. To a nice couple. She's a schoolteacher. He's a mechanic. First thing they did? Tore down the whole garage. Built a new one. Legally. And they even asked if we wanted to split the cost of a privacy fence. One that actually followed the real property line. Imagine that. Respectful neighbors. Novel concept. One day, while watching my daughter swing in the backyard again, I looked over at the yellow paint. Still there. Still ridiculous. I thought about repainting it. But nah. Let it stay. Let it be a monument. To fences. To greed. To karma. To Greg. And the 6 feet that cost him everything. It's quiet now. The kind of quiet you don't notice until you've lived without it for too long. No more motion lights flooding the yard. No more revving engines. No more watching my back every time I take out the trash. Just grass. A swing set. My wife humming while she waters her garden. Peace. That thing you don't realize you've lost until some jerk builds a garage on it. It's been a year since Greg moved out. His name doesn't come up much anymore. New neighbors asked once what the deal was with the yellow stripe on the garage slab. I just smiled. It's a long story. They didn't push. They're good people. Quiet. Friendly. Fence stays exactly where it belongs. We even built a gate so our kids can run between yards. Like it should be. Funny how something as dumb as a fence can take over your life. But that's what it did. It wasn't just about the land. Or the wall. Or the money. It was about being disrespected. Over and over. By someone who thought no one would ever stop him. And then, finally, stopping him. I drive past Greg's new house sometimes. It's 2 towns over. Smaller. No garage. I don't stop. Just glance. Then keep going. I heard he had to take out a second mortgage after the lawsuit. Tried suing his lawyer for malpractice. That didn't work either. Last I heard, he's renting his basement to strangers. Poetic. As for me? I sleep better now. I don't jump when the doorbell rings. Don't flinch at trash bags in the driveway. And yeah, I kept the yellow paint. Reapplied it last month. Bright and bold. Still makes the neighbors laugh. I like that. But every now and then I walk out to that part of the yard, the 6 feet he tried to steal, and I just stand there. To remind myself what it took to get it back. The time. The stress. The strategy. The patience. Because revenge? It's not always about blowing up someone's car or keying their door or screaming in their face. Sometimes it's slow, careful, quiet, and legal. The kind that comes with paperwork and court stamps and a judge handing you your dignity back in writing. That's the best kind. It sticks. Greg took 6 feet of grass. I took his garage, his savings, and his pride. And now? He stays gone. And I stay winning.